Okay, that's good. This looks to be a time where she put the wrong date in, correct?
Yes.
And if the date for the billing doesn't match up with the date for consultation, that can lead to problems with payment.
It's fraud. Yes.
Okay. It may be unintentional.
Of
It
course.
happens.
Yes. That's what we're here for too.
Okay. And then she says, can you please, she uses the word please, just change the date and the charges were dropped. That's how she phrased that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's yes?
Yes.
Okay. Was that belittling or unprofessional? Ask you to
To
do that?
me, it is not something that would be asked of a coder ever to change any kind of documentation provider does. It is illegal and it's fraud. So when you tell me to do that, can you just do that? This discussion, I know has and was made before, but that is not something I can't touch your documentation. I cannot. No coder can. Another provider cannot change someone else's notes or change what they have documented in their note.
Well, if it was as you described it as fraud, did you ever respond to her and say, I can't do it because it's fraud?
Yes, well, I try not to ever say that. It's kind of accusingly. That is not my role, is to
Okay.
accuse. So yes, I would say I'm not able to make that change. You have to.
Did you make that response in regard to this email?
I would think I did. I would say that would have been my response, but it's 3 years ago. I'm sorry, 4 years ago.
Okay. But you prepared this list
So
back in October of 2017, correct? Yes?
again, I don't remember putting these together. Really don't. Why these would be the examples I would use, I'm lost. No, I'm going to say no, I did not.
Okay. Can we scroll down a little bit further?
Keep going, or is this?
I think to keep going.
Is this one you want to look at?
I think it starts with R41.89. Oh, no, it's above that. Sorry, it's above.
I think these are the ones we already looked
Yeah,
at.
those are the ones you already looked at. Why don't I can move on to a different area there.
Okay.
Now, he described this staff meeting. And we've established through other witnesses that this was October 24, 2017. This staff meeting included people from coding, right?
Yes.
It also included people from neuropsychology.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're meeting in a pretty small room, right?
Yes.
In fact, 6 people in that room would have made it full, and there were even more than 6 people in it, right?
I don't know how many were in there. And to say 6 would make it small, I guess that's someone's perception.
Is that your perception?
I don't remember the room. I remember it was not a big conference room. That I do remember.
I could just, well, it was a small room and there were a lot of people in it, right?
Okay,
You'd agree with that?
yes. Yeah.
I could just have a second.
Sure.
Julie Jackson, you recall, asked you for those epic notes.
These messages,
Yes.
again, I responded to that I don't remember specifically this. No, I don't, I can't say I remember that.
You did forward them to Julie Jackson, right?
I'm again saying I don't recall these being sent to her by me.
No other person in coding
I
was
would-
named Diva.
No, yeah, no.
And the notes themselves, that is you, right?
Yes, I'm not denying that they weren't, that they aren't existing. They do. Yes.
I guess the question he's asking, and maybe the question in my mind is there anybody but you that could have forwarded these epic notes to Julie Jackson?
Well, I would think Pam McMurray could because she's part of them. And those that were copied in on that too, and this one are Julie and Eben and Gina Redkemper. I don't know how to say Julie J's last name there.
Okay,
I'm saying that I don't remember that these would be the ones that I sent to.
but but I think you also, maybe I'm misunderstanding your testimony. I thought you were saying you don't even recall sending any messages to her.
No, any epic message.
Okay,
As far as what she was looking for, I just remember providing that email to her. I'm not saying I didn't send these. I'm not saying any of it. I don't recall. That would be what I don't know if I recall if I sent it with that email that we have here, exhibit that I sent to Julie. And very possibly that is it. I'm just saying I don't remember.
all right, thanks.
Could I have C20 up, please?
Okay, just 1 second. I just got to find what page it starts on. So this is C20.
Yeah. Ms. Schwartz, this is an email that you wrote to Julie Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. And you did that because Julie Jackson requested you do that, right?
She asked me for some feedback. Yes.
Okay. And I think that's is that at the bottom of the exhibit? Judge, if we could just scroll down. Right. So that's October 20 is when she is requesting this information from from you, right?
Yes.
And then your response is above.
I'll go back up there, sorry.
Yep. And your response was October 24.
Yes.
And then you say, Julie, I hope this makes sense, or I have provided enough. Is that how you ended it?
Yes.
What did you mean by have I provided enough?
If I can recall 4 years ago, I meant enough of the information in there. But if I again, I don't, and I'm not going to say something I don't remember. Don't remember sending those messages, the epic messages to her. This is what I remember putting together.
All right. And did Julie Jackson ever reach out to you again after this email that you wrote saying, no, I need more?
Not that I recall, no.
That's all the questions I have for this witness. Thank you.
Anything else, Attorney Mitchell?
Yes, looking still at C20, Ms. Schwartz, did Julie Jackson ever dictate the statements you wrote in this email to her?
No.
So the content of your email dated October 24th to Julie Jackson represents your personal opinion and observations of Dr. McMurray's behaviors.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Anything else, Attorney Plantinga?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Schwartz, for your testimony. I am just asking the witnesses, because we still have a few more witnesses to get through, that you not talk about your testimony with anybody until after the hearing today.
I can log out, right?
You can log
Yeah,
out.
you have
Yes. Thank
time.
you so much.
Thank you, Neva.
And it looks like Suzanne Oliver is here. Does anybody need a break, or can we get right into her testimony?
I think we can go.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me bring her in then. Miss Oliver, can you hear me? I think you're muted. Just a second. Let me unmute you. Can you hear me, Miss Oliver?
Yes. Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start with Attorney Mitchell asking you some questions. Attorney Plantinga may have some questions for you as well. We may go back and forth a little bit with their questioning. I just want to make sure, do you have any documents or anything in front of you at this point about this case?
No, I do
Okay.
not.
All right. So before we begin with their questioning, I do need to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down. And could you just state your name for us and spell it, please?
Suzanne Oliver, SuzanneOliver.
All right, Attorney Mitchell, whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Ms. Oliver. Ms. Oliver, who is your current employer?
I currently work for Citigroup.
Okay, and what is your current position with Citigroup?
I am an HR generalist lead.
Okay. Did you previously work for ProHealth Care?
Yes.
And when did you start and leave ProHealth Care?
I believe I started in March of 2012 until July of 2018.
Okay. And when you began at ProHealth Care, what was your position?
I started as a senior HR business partner.
And did that position change at any point during your tenure with ProHealth?
Yes, about halfway through 2016, my title changed to strategic business partner.
Okay. Can you describe your duties when you started and when you had a job change, what your general job responsibilities were?
Sure. In general, when I first started, I was functioned more as a generalist, doing employee relations work as well as working on strategic initiatives aligned to businesses that I supported. And then with the second role, it was more focused towards the strategic business initiatives.
Okay, thank you. To whom did you report in the HR department?
To Ildiko Hubbards. I believe she was a HR director at the time.
Could you please describe your post high school education, please?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with an emphasis in psychology and a master's degree in human resources management from Keller University.
Okay. You mentioned having a bachelor's degree with an emphasis in psychology. Do you have any clinical experience as a psychologist or neuropsychologist?
I do not.
Do you consider yourself competent to render any sort of assessment on clinical competency in psychology or neuropsychology?
I do not.
Did you have any assigned duties to the neuropsychology section?
Yes, with our roles, we were assigned to different business groups or work teams. And for me, the neuropsychology was one of the ones that I was aligned to.
Okay. And do you know Pam McMurray, Dr. McMurray?
Yes.
And approximately when did you meet Dr. McMurray?
I don't know specifically when we first met. It would have been sometime, I would imagine, mid 2013.
So sooner to the beginning of your employment with ProHealth?
Yes.
Okay. How often did you typically interact with Dr. McMurray during your employment?
I think I've had been in meetings with her a handful of times, and then I had received probably several emails from her over the course of the 5 years I was, or 4 years that I was still with ProHealth.
Okay. Are you aware that Dr. McMurray served as clinical director of the neuropsychology section?
Yes.
Do you know Julie Jackson?
Yes.
And who's Julie Jackson?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Well, who is Julie Jackson? What was her role in this time period, 2012, 2013?
I believe she was I don't recall her formal title, but director over the neuropsychology as well as over areas of therapy.
Okay. Do you know Dr. Evan Schwartz?
Yes.
And who is Dr. Schwartz?
He was one of the providers that was part of the neuropsychology team.
Are you aware that Julie Jackson replaced Dr. McMurray with Dr. Schwartz as the clinical director of the neuropsychology section in
Yes.
fall 2013 time range?
Yes.
You are? Okay. How do you know that?
Julie had reached out to me to inform me that she had made a decision to make a change with that role.
And what did Julie tell you in terms of the reasons why she was making a change in that position?
From what I can recall, she indicated wanted to make a change in leadership, partially because there were some challenges in working with Dr. McMurray on following up on some issues that had been happening within the team and with some individuals. So she wanted to make a change, just try to go in a different direction.
You mentioned issues with some individuals in the section. Was one of those individuals Diane Mosnick?
Yes.
Dr. Diane Mosnick? Did Julie express to you why she felt Dr. Schwartz would be a good replacement for the position?
From what I can recall, I think she just felt he had good leadership potential, had some good skills, was certainly very open to developing those and working with Julie.
Okay. Did Julie mention anything about his clinical competency or any concerns about his clinical competency that Dr. McMurray might have raised at the time?
No.
Judge, I'd like to show the witness respondent exhibit number 7, please.
Okay. Okay, so do you see that document?
I do not yet.
Okay. Let me try it again. Okay, do you see something now?
Yep, starting to pop out now. Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, Ms. Oliver, do you recognize this email?
Yes.
The August 9th, 2013 email that Pam McMurray sent to you. Do you
Yes.
recognize that email?
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
okay. Can you explain what this August 9th, 2013 email is about? What's going on?
Dr. McMurray had been informed about the decision and she had contacted me because she was not happy with the decision to change the directorship role over to Dr. Schwartz.
And what is your recollection or your interpretation of why Dr. McMurray was unhappy with being replaced by Dr. Schwartz?
My interpretation was that she didn't feel that he was experienced enough, that he was a junior part of the team and therefore was not qualified for the role.
Dr. McMurray writes about Diane Mosnick in this email. Do you see that?
Yes.
Can you explain your interpretation of this conversation surrounding Dr. Diane Mosnick in this email?
I know Julie had been trying to address issues with Dr. Mosnick. And my interpretation from this was that Dr. McMurray was trying to kind of justify issues through her performance as a clinician.
Were you involved at all in the investigation or termination of Dr. Diane Mosnick?
Yes, I believe I was. I don't recall to the extent, but I would have been involved given my alignment.
Okay. Dr. McMurray is also writing about Julie Jackson in this email. How do you interpret what Dr. McMurray is describing Julie Jackson as in this email?
I interpreted it as her believing that Julie was not, that she was not competent to make decisions with regards to the directorship role or the practice within the department in general.
The second page, if you could scroll down, Judge. In the paragraph that begins the passing of this rule, I'm just going to read this passage. The passing of this role to Dr. Schwartz will be interpreted within the organization as a failing of some kind on my part, regardless of what is said otherwise. It also will carry with it the impression that he has done something to have earned or deserved the position, which he has not. First, did I read that passage correctly, Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
How did you interpret this, these comments?
I interpreted it, I guess, two things: that she was worried that the decision was going to make her look bad and that she didn't feel Dr. Schwartz was qualified to be in the role.
And did you understand Dr. McMurray's reservations about Dr. Schwartz's qualifications for the role to have anything to do with his clinical competency?
No, I did not.
Do you interpret anything in this email as Dr. McMurray raising concern about Dr. Schwartz's clinical competency?
No.
At any time before this email, do you recall Dr. McMurray raising any concerns with you about Dr. Schwartz's clinical competency?
No, I do not recall that she ever did.
Judge, I'd like to move to enter Respondent Exhibit 7 into the record.
Any objections, Attorney Plantinga?
No.
All right, so Exhibit R7 is received.
Thank you. If we could show the witness Respondent Exhibit 6, please.
Okay.
Further out.
Yep.
Please.
I think this is the first page.
Yeah, if we could scroll down to the August 1st, 2013 portion there. All right, that's great. Thank you. Ms. Oliver, are you familiar with this email that Dr. McMurray sent to Julie Jackson and CC to Ken Price, you, and Jim Gardner?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain what this email is, what's happening?
That Dr. Murray was opposing the decision by Julie to put Dr. Schwartz into the directorship role.
Do you know why you're copied on this email in the first place?
My interpretation is that she wanted to have multiple people aware of her displeasure with the decision.
Do you know why, or what's your interpretation of why she sent you the other email dated August 8th, 2013? Or excuse me, August 9th, 2013, the Respondent Exhibit 7 that we just looked at.
Well, in both cases, I think because was the HR that supported at the time, but I interpreted it as wanting to kind of get that documentation out in an email. Her opposition to the decisions that Julie was making.
As the HR representative to the neuropsych section, do you feel like you have an understanding of what the role is of the clinical director?
I feel that the role is an administrative role. I mean.
Okay. And so you were the HR representative to neuropsych for several years. So do you believe the number of years of clinical practice is relevant to whether someone has the qualifications to assume a leadership administrative role?
I don't in this case, and just in my HR experience, years of experience in a role doesn't necessarily equate to being a good manager or leader.
Can you point to anywhere in this August 1st, 2013 email where you believe Dr. McMurray is raising a concern about Dr. Schwartz's clinical competency or any quality of care issues? And the judge can scroll if need be.
Let me know if you need me to keep going. I don't want to rush you.
Yeah, you can keep scrolling. Yep, keep scrolling. Yeah, keep scrolling unless that's it.
I think that's it.
Okay. No, I did not identify any areas where there was concern about clinical practice.
Okay. I believe this is already in the record, Judge.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Oliver, did you participate in an October 2014 disciplinary meeting with Dr. McMurray?
Yes.
Who was present at that meeting?
Myself, Dr. McMurray, and Julie Jackson.
Was it normal for HR representatives, third parties to attend a disciplinary meeting like this?
No, that would not be typical practice.
And so why was this then atypical? Why were you present?
From what I can recall, I think Julie wanted to have my assistants to help deliver the message that we thought it would be best in order to communicate that so it could truly be heard and understood.
Do you recall the circumstances that led to this disciplinary meeting in October 2014?
From what I can recall, Julie had shared that there had been, prior concerns, discussions about the tone that Dr. McMurray would take in communication. But then there was a specific email to Dr. Schwartz where we felt that had been another example of behavior that was, I would consider belittling, demeaning, bullying.
Okay. Judge, can we show the witness respondent exhibit 3, please?
Can you see that?
Starting with my clinical schedule and hours, yes.
Okay. Do you recognize this email, Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Is this the email that you were just describing?
Yes.
Can you explain your interpretation of what is happening in this email?
I interpreted it first. It started off with Dr. McMurray questioning the scheduling, the coverage of hours, and feeling that it was not equitable. And then it seemed to go into kind of criticism of Dr. Schwartz's administrative processes. But then at the end, from what I can recall, there was criticism of Dr. Evan or Dr. Schwartz himself in that he had not yet passed boards that that Dr. McMurray apparently felt she was entitled to challenge him on.
How do you interpret the tone of Dr. McMurray's email here to Dr. Schwartz?
I interpreted it as belittling. I felt that it was a haughty tone, but then it seemed to be in a, something to really consider, a toxic message. I felt it was bullying in tone, particularly with regards to calling out Dr. Schwartz about his boards when that seemed to have nothing to do with what the email was supposed to be about.
As a neuropsych's HR representative, were you aware of any explicit job condition that Dr. Schwartz had to obtain his board certification?
I was not, no.
And again, this is the email that prompted the performance evaluation meeting, correct?
Correct.
Judge, if we could please show the witness respondent exhibit number 5.
Can you see that?
Yes, actually, I'm gonna just, there we go. Okay, and that helps a little bit, yes.
Do you need it zoomed in a little bit?
Nope, nope, this should work. I apologize, I have a small laptop, so I'll just zoom myself in a little bit.
No trouble. Are you familiar with this document?
Yes.
Albert? All right, can you explain what this document is?
The general document itself is a performance documentation or that we would issue when there has been ongoing behavior concerns. We try to, illustrate the prior conversations and attempt to identify that behavior. But if we see a pattern of that behavior and we don't see behavior changing, then we will typically go to performance documentation to help further illustrate the seriousness of the concerns and the need to change behavior.
So is it fair then that this performance documentation represents sort of the culmination or aggregate of repeated behaviors?
Correct.
And this is the performance documentation you and Julie Jackson provided to Dr. McMurray during your meeting in October?
Yes.
And I think you just spoke to this, but can you describe the reason why you held this meeting in the first place and why ProHealth issued this written warning?
Specific to Dr. McMurray, Julie had indicated that there had been, ongoing concerns about the tone in the way that Dr. McMurray would communicate with others. And the most recent example of that was illustrated with that August 9th email, and we felt it was appropriate and significant enough to address it through the documentation.
Do you mean the October 1st email?
Oh, apologies. Yes, October 1st.
Prior to this performance meeting, had Dr. McMurray ever brought any concerns to you about Dr. Schwartz's clinical competency?
No, none that I recall.
Thinking back on this October 2014 meeting with Dr. McMurray and Julie Jackson, in your view, how did the meeting go?
From what I can recall, I felt it was unproductive. I don't feel the information was received well or taken to heart.
And why is that?
During the conversation, and I can't recall specifically what we were discussing, I think the general tone was just trying to identify, ways to, change the tone of messages that we're trying to get communicated. And I was trying to illustrate, how impactful, perception of her tone can be to others. I just recall having a conversation or talking directly with Dr. McMurray, and as I was trying to have that conversation, the thing I do remember was her smirk, and that's the best way I could classify it as I was trying to have this conversation with her. It bothered me to the point that I stopped and pointed out to her that what she was doing to me at that moment was exactly what we were trying to tell her is the issue, that she comes across as belittling and demeaning, and that is very impactful, and that was the purpose of the meeting.
And did you feel like Dr. McMurray was treating you, in a belittling or demeaning way during that meeting?
I did. I walked away feeling that she thought I was basically ignorant because I was not familiar with their practice, their clinical practice.
Okay. Thank you. Jumping ahead 3 years approximately, you're aware that ProHealth terminated Dr. McMurray, correct?
Yes.
Does the date November 2nd, 2017 sound correct for her termination date?
Yes.
Thereabouts?
Yes.
Were you involved at all in the investigation preceding Dr. McMurray's termination?
Yes.
To what extent?
From what I can recall, there was follow-up to other concerns that had been brought forward to Julie by others within the neuropsychology department.
Do you recall any of those concerns today?
From what I can recall, it was just the reoccurring theme of kind of bullying and demeaning behavior.
Were those, if you recall, were these reports of bullying and demeaning behavior at Evan Schwartz, or more people than just Evan Schwartz?
More people. One I specifically recall was an administrative person within the team.
Okay. What is your understanding of the reason why ProHealth terminated Dr. McMurray?
Because there was recurring behavior that I think ProHealth felt was causing a toxic and hostile work environment, and that there had been previous attempts to try to make Dr. McMurray aware that that behavior needed to change, and it wasn't happening.
Did you, as somebody who was in HR and was assigned to the neuropsychology section for multiple years by the time of Dr. McMurray's termination, did you support the decision to terminate Dr. McMurray?
I did. I felt it was the right thing to do for the department, for the values of ProHealth Care.
And why is that?
Because I, from firsthand experience, knew how demoralizing interactions with her could be, and I did not want anyone to have to be exposed to that.
Judge, if we could present the witness with respondent exhibit 39, please.
I think this is the first page.
Yeah. Ms. Oliver, do you recognize this email thread?
Yes.
This is an email thread between Eltico Huppertz and Julie Jackson and yourself regarding Dr. McMurray and the investigation leading to her termination, correct?
Yes.
And Eltico Huppertz again is whom?
Excuse me. Ildiko Hubbards was, I believe at the time her title was Director of Human Resources, my boss.
Okay. And do you understand, there's a midway down, Ildiko emails you on October 20th, 2017, emails you and Julie Jackson. And she references a Karen K. Why you needed to have a Karen K at the meeting. Is Karen K, or did you understand Karen K to mean Karen Colchin?
Yes.
And who is Karen Colchin?
Dr. Colchin was a leader with the medical staff office. I believe her title was director.
Okay. Is your understanding of Ildiko's email that Dr. Colchin saw Dr. McMurray's behavior as an HR concern?
That was my interpretation, yes.
What is your understanding of the difference between HR concerns and the concerns that the medical staff office may review at ProHealth Care?
My understanding is with the medical staff office, it's about clinical practice versus, human resources. We're dealing with employee behaviors, employee-related policies. So
Okay.
we would not cross over into addressing ourselves in human resources clinical practice.
And
or clinical deficiencies or concerns.
And did you also interpret the behaviors, Dr. McMurray's behaviors, as concerning HR matters? Within your realm as an HR department?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, I'd like to move to enter Respondent Exhibit 39 into the record.
Any objections, Attorney Plantinga?
Objection.
All right, so 39 is received.
Ms. Oliver, in your discussions with Julie Jackson and Ildiko Huppertz regarding Dr. McMurray's termination and the investigation leading up to her termination, did you ever talk to them about Dr. Schwartz's clinical skills or complaints Dr. McMurray may have allegedly raised about Dr. Schwartz's clinical skills?
No.
As far as reasons for Dr. McMurray's termination, what did you discuss with Julie Jackson and Ildiko Huppertz?
I think just that her repetitive behaviors, her tone was being perceived by multiple people within the department as belittling, as and bullying. That we didn't see that behavior was changing. It seemed that she was always fighting back on decisions. I think at that point that just, I don't know if there was any decision that she was in agreement with when it came to Julie or Dr. Schwartz and how they were conducting it from an administrative perspective. So I just felt like it added to that toxic environment. And then when the additional concerns were brought forward by other staff members about bullying behavior, that the decision seemed clear that we needed to make that decision.
And in your conversations just with the Ildiko Huppertz, your boss, are those the concerns that you discussed with the Ildiko between the HR team members as the reasons contributing, leading towards the termination?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Oliver. That's all I have for you.
Any questions for her, Attorney Plantinga?
Yes, I do. Ms. Oliver, you changed titles in 2016, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's not always clear from a title, especially in a hospital system, what you're doing. But what was the change? Strategic business partner is what I wrote down. How did your duties change after your title changed?
How I viewed it is in my first role, there were two components, the employee relations and then the HR strategic work with the businesses. And those roles were basically, instead of having one combined role, they were split out. So we still had HR business partners focusing on the ER, and then the title of the strategic business partner was created to focus more on the strategic side. Not exclusively, but that was the focus.
And I guess what I'm asking is this just a title change or is it a duty change?
I would not say duty change. It's just a focus more on the strategic work. That was part of my responsibilities before.
Now, when were you sort of the liaison between HR and neuropsychology?
The specific time frame?
Yes.
I guess I don't know the specific time frame. I don't believe I was assigned neuropsychology when I first started, but apparently it was, certainly within a year or so after I started that I believe we had a reassignment that I got neuropsychology.
Now you described this meeting with Dr. McMurray for the write-up. Did you have any interactions, meetings with her in 2015, for example?
I guess I don't recall specifically.
And in terms of those the disciplinary meeting, there were some prior instances. Were you involved in any of those, or were those contributed by Julie Jackson?
You're referring to the prior incidents that were referenced on the performance documentation?
Yes.
I don't recall if I was involved in the prior incidents.
Okay. Now, you understood, I think you related this email respondent exhibit 3. This is the email to Evan Schwartz in 2014.
I can bring it up, just one second. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were not involved in the hiring of Evan Schwartz, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if there had been expectation that was communicated about board certification, that's not something that you necessarily would have known about, right?
I could have known about it through, if there's certain expectations for a role. Generally, we try to put that within an offer letter.
Okay. But whether in a face-to-face meeting, whether there was discussion about board certification and obtaining board certification, you wouldn't know that necessarily if you weren't in the meeting and it didn't somehow make its way into documentation, correct?
Correct.
Now, you talked about the clinical director being transitioned from Pam McMurray to Evan Schwartz, right?
The directorship role? Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think you call it clinical director. Is that the name?
From what I can recall, I recalled it being a directorship.
Okay. Now, part of that tasking of a directorship is additional responsibilities, right?
On top of someone's regular role, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you would have more administrative duties, but it's not like you can stop on the clinical side of it. It's just sort of added on.
I guess that is a potential. I guess in this specific case, I can't say.
Okay. There was additional compensation for doing this directorship piece of employment, right?
From what I can recall, yes.
Okay. And presumably the additional compensation is because there'd be additional duties that a neuropsychologist wouldn't otherwise have to do, right? That's why you're rewarding it with additional compensation.
That is my understanding.
And did Dr. McMurray express concern that we shouldn't be adding to Evan's plate by giving him these additional administrative duties?
I guess I don't recall specifically.
Okay. Can we scroll down a little bit, Judge?
Do you know what paragraph?
It starts with Evan may well. Know that. Oh,
In this email?
yes, I think so. It starts with a paragraph. Evan may well.
It's the end
Looks
of
like I have the wrong. Looks like I have the wrong exhibit. Okay, yeah, I do have the wrong exhibit.
Do you know which one it is?
R6, I believe.
Okay, let me bring that one up.
Okay.
So I think you're looking at this
you can
paragraph
stop
here.
right there. Yeah, yeah. one of the paragraphs starts, Evan Schwartz is junior by any metric to anyone else in our section or the Division of Psychology with less than 2 full years of practice. You're not disputing that that fact is the case, correct?
I don't have specific knowledge of his years of experience to substantiate that sentence.
Okay. And if he was less than 2 full years of practice, as she represented in that, you might still be learning your way around the clinical practice of neuropsychology, right?
I don't feel I am qualified to answer that question.
The next paragraph, Evan may well be ready to take the reins in a few years. Do you see that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So she's not saying that he will never be ready. She just didn't think he was ready right then, correct? That's how you interpreted it?
That seems to be for that particular sentence what she's trying to say, yes.
Sure. Let's go down a couple more, though. It says, Evan is bright and talented, and he has already proved himself to be an innovative thinker and a valuable addition to our practice. That's pretty complimentary, isn't it?
Yes.
So as far as the tone of this email, she's upset about losing the directorship position, correct?
It would seem so, yes.
And that's fair, right? I mean, there's a compensation component. There might be a perception problem that she wasn't doing a good job. You know, you certainly can understand that happening, right?
Yep.
And as we just said, although you find some fault in terms of the tone in parts, in other parts, she's very complimentary toward him. And she says he's a valuable part of the practice and that he'll be ready in a little while, but just not yet. Correct? And the parts we just went over.
Yeah. If we're talking about the directorship, that seems to be what she's implying.
Okay. That's how you understood it. Right?
That's her interpretation, yes.
Now, concerning the decision to terminate Pam McMurray, much of that was based on Julie Jackson gathering information, correct?
I know she was part of the investigation to gather information. I guess I can't quantify how much of it. I don't recall her specifically.
It was Julie Jackson reaching out to Neva Schwartz, correct?
From a specific exhibit?
Yes. We have so many exhibits.
Might be your exhibit 20 or complainants exhibit 20. I'm not sure. I can bring that one up and see if that's what you're looking for.
It's the one with the epic notes.
Oh, okay. Then I don't think that's that one.
I apologize.
I think you're looking for a respondent exhibit 45.
Yes, that's the one.
That'd be helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks for the assist.
Always trying to land a triple double.
All right.
I
Ms.
think this is-
Oliver, you've seen this email before?
Yes.
Okay. And this is shortly before the meeting where you terminated Pam McMurray, right?
I guess, could you clarify that question?
Sure. Pam McMurray was terminated November 2, 2017.
Okay, yes, that's my understanding, yeah.
Right. And then I don't really think that's in dispute, but this email looks to be from Julie Jackson to you just before that, October 19, 2017. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks like from the email that Julie Jackson sought information from Neva Schwartz, who is a coder.
That seems to be the email itself. I believe that was in response to a concern that was brought to Julie. I don't recall the specifics.
Okay,
of
do you
how that
remember?
originated.
I understand you don't work for ProHealth Care anymore, but do you remember receiving this email?
In 2017, I guess I don't specifically.
Okay.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I recall that an admin on the team had expressed concerns of behavior from Dr. McMurray.
All right. And that admin was, now you know, is Neva Schwartz, correct? Do you believe that to be the case?
Yes.
Okay. And then it says, from Julie Jackson, the attached document is not what I expected. Do you know what Julie Jackson meant by that? Did you ever discuss it with her prior to terminating Pam McMurray on November 2, 2017?
I don't recall specifically.
Okay. Did you think that the information provided by Neva Schwartz demonstrated that Pam McMurray was a bully?
I would like to be able to review them again. From what I can recall, I believe the tone was in line to what we had tried to address before.
Can we stop there?
Sure.
I'll represent to you that this is one of the attachments. And it appears to be an email exchange between the coder, the admin person, Neva Schwartz, and Pam McMurray in the Epic system, right? Do you understand the formatting of it?
I did not have access to the Epic system, so I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this one of the emails that you reviewed when Julie Jackson sent those to you?
I don't recall specifically. Obviously, she had emailed it to us. As far as what we reviewed, I guess I don't recall this specific conversation.
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, really, the decision about whether to terminate Pam McMurray was sort of on the table at that point, right?
I guess I don't feel I can answer that question. I don't recall the specific conversation.
Okay, but when Julie Jackson's emailing you and Ildigo, right? It's because there's a concern there. That's why HR is involved.
Yep, that would be my interpretation, yes.
Okay. And you know that not too long after this, Pam McMurray was terminated because you participated in that, right?
I did not participate in the meeting, no.
The events leading up to the meeting.
I participated in an investigation leading up. Mm-hmm.
And including reviewing any information that Julie Jackson was able to gather, right?
I would, again, I don't recall the specifics, but I would think we would have reviewed various items, including the emails.
And you know, to be fair, Pam McMurray was a long-term employee of ProHealth Care at that point, correct?
I don't recall her tenure specifically.
Okay, but certainly it preceded your starting there in 2010.
I don't know her start date, so I guess I can't confirm that.
This particular note that Julie Jackson passed on to you, it looks like there's a dispute between choosing depression or dementia in the coding. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, could you,
The first
the one we're
first
looking at right now?
sentence. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And it looks like Pam McMurray is taking responsibility and basically saying, yeah, I screwed up.
That is one interpretation, yeah.
Well, is she blaming Neva Schwartz for it, or is she saying, I thought I did this, but apparently not, meaning I did something else?
I guess I interpret it as I guess she thought she entered it in, apparently not. I guess I don't necessarily know that she's taken accountability versus can't explain why it's not in there.
Okay, but it's not bullying if you say, sorry, I don't know why it got in there, right? That's an appropriate response.
The action itself, to say yes.
Yeah, and not just the action itself, but how she's communicating, right?
I guess that I feel is open to interpretation. I guess I don't know specifically if that sentence was considered bullying by Neva or not.
I'd like to ask you about Dr. Kolchin. She was with med staffing, right?
From what I can recall, yes.
Okay. And med staffing and HR are, you said that there was a distinction between those, right?
Yeah. I mean, certainly they're not part of the HR department, nor are we part of theirs.
Okay. But in terms of what they addressed, you said there was a distinction. Clinical versus behavioral, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, yes.
Okay. But you're also aware that med staffing, there's also overlap with concerns about, there's also overlap between concerns with HR and med staffing, correct? Concerning behavior?
There can be, sure.
Could we see respondent exhibit 44? And if you could just scroll down. Okay. First of all, this is from Karen Kolchin. She's with med staffing to Julie Jackson. Do you see that?
I'm seeing the email right now, yes.
And if we could go down a little bit.
Keep going.
Yeah. All right.
Is this what you want as the exhibit? Okay.
The number one in the policy statement talks about communications, right? And it says that those practicing in the hospital, and that would include Pam McMurray, right? Yes? Yes.
Sorry, I've not seen this before, so I'm reading it through.
Okay.
Okay.
And it talks about treating others with respect, courtesy, and dignity, and conduct themselves in a professional and cooperative manner. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be an example of overlap with concerns of HR, correct?
Yes, that could be.
Okay. If we could go up just a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, down. I think I just saw it. Okay. Karen Colchin is writing, see the highlighted areas. I don't know if Pam's behavior rises to that level or not. Do you see that?
I do see where it says that, yes.
Okay. So even though there's overlap between HR and med staffing, at least the opinion of someone more familiar with med staffing did not feel like her behavior would warrant further action by med staffing, correct?
Just speculation.
You can answer the question.
Yes, I don't know what Dr. Colchin did or didn't know about the situation, so I can't answer that question.